Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mina Chetinkaya Randall. I'm actually giving this talk on behalf of Francois Michonneau, who is not here due to some visa issues. He's stuck in the US. And Tracy Teal and Francois Michonneau put the slides together. While I'm a big fan and supporter of the work they do at Data Carpentry and Software Carpentry and have been involved with some of the curriculum development, I'm not one of the organizers, so I will do my best to answer questions, but if not, these are contact information for them for you to reach them, or I'd be happy to, report the questions back and have them get back to you. All right, so our increasing capacity to collect data is kind of changing how we can look at the world. A lot of domain scientists are now working with data, bigger data, more complex data. Even these are lab scientists who are doing the data collection in the lab and then going back to their computers and needing to process and analyze these data. And software and tools allow us to turn this data into information, but it's the people who really turn information into knowledge, and we can unleash the potential of data by empowering these people. So we want to make the data accessible, and putting the data skills and the perspectives in the hands of all. We allow people to answer their own questions and capture their passion and expert knowledge. However, when these scientists are left with the task of managing, storing, analyzing, or even viewing these data, they hit a lot of challenges, and it is an insurmountable challenge for them, and they need the skills to be able to do this. So this is results from a 2013 survey of the bioinformatics community in Australia, and they identified training as the major limiting factor towards their research goals. Here's another survey from 2016. These are NSF, so Natural Science Foundation PIs in the US, who show that training in data manipulation and analysis were the most unmet needs to help them analyze the data. So in other words, the tools to analyze the data are available, but people feel like they don't know how to use them. And this is something that the Data Carpentry and Software Carpentry workshops have been seeing. They fill within hours. The last time they had a recent workshop at NIH, which is National Institutes of Health in the US, they had 20 spots for the workshop, and they had a wait list of about 84 people wanting to take this course. So the question is, can we scale the training to meet the demands of these large data sets? And if so, how are we going to do this? And how are we going to fit this into the already tight schedules of people? And additionally, how are we going to do this at a large scale? We're not talking about one university, one business, one community. We're talking about empowering scientists all over the country and the world. So the approach taken by Data Carpentry and Software Carpentry is to build local communities and capacities. And specifically, they aim at building communities by teaching data literacy skills. How do we do this? This is, in essence, a grassroots training effort. So it's developed by practitioners for practitioners. So the people who are developing the curriculum are people who know very well what the needs of the practitioners are. They do most certainly collaborate with developers at the same time, but the goal is to develop a curriculum that is filled with exactly what these scientists need, and honestly not much more than that, but not much less than that either. We want to identify skills and best practices needed in software development, data management, and analysis in given domains, and sometimes this is going to vary from domain to domain. All of the materials are collaboratively and iteratively developed, and they're openly licensed, CC BY, and they're all available on GitHub. So if you're to go to the repositories for software and data carpentry, the materials are all there, and you're welcome to grab them and use them all for your own purposes if you like. The goal is a 2-day intensive hands-on workshop in fundamental data analysis skills using a pool of volunteer helpers and instructors. Obviously, these pool of volunteer helpers and instructors need to know the material well, but they also need to know how to teach the material. So these are qualified instructors, so they themselves go through a training process, a 2-day workshop as well, to learn about pedagogy and why the carpentries teach what they teach. Also importantly, this is a friendly learning environment, and we make our best to attempt to not leave anybody behind. The helpers check on everybody's progress and ask instructors to repeat concepts and to slow down. A lot of times when you're working with novices, they might be somewhat intimidated to do so. Oftentimes you're sitting in a room and it's easy to feel like, I must be the only one not getting it. It seems like everybody's typing away. So in a lot of the carpentry workshops, it's not just one person in the front who is delivering content, but in addition to that, we have helpers who walk around. And it's both the experience that we've observed at the Carpentries and also in classroom teaching at any time that people are honestly more willing to ask questions if you're physically walking by them than if not. In terms of the content, so these are core skills for effective research computing. It's a 2-day hands-on workshop. As I said, it's collaboratively developed and openly licensed. Currently, there are over 800 trained volunteer instructors on 6 continents, and that's a huge success in just a few years. More than focus on a particular analysis technique, the workshops are focused on data management and what might be called data wrangling, getting your data in and out of analysis programs, formatting your data for analysis, and conducting visualization. And we want to teach not only the skills, but also affect attitudes. So emphasizing the importance and value of these approaches for effective and reproducible research. The goal is that you give these core skills to the people, and then within their own domains, there may be specific analysis techniques that they need to learn, but they're going to be a lot more confident and empowered to read the documentation for those and get themselves up to speed, launching themselves from the core skills that they have obtained at the Carpentries. In terms of the workshop goals, the primary goal is increased confidence in learners' ability to do computational work and to continue to learn more. We also want to lower the activation barrier for people to get started working with data. And often people don't know where to start, so this gives them a place to get started. The skills we teach should be the ones they can immediately apply to their research, and the practitioners developing the curriculum is a very important component of figuring out what those skills are. People should learn the things that we're teaching. We should see a shift in perspective in the value of skills like scripting for better research and reproducible research. And people should have a positive workshop experience that empowers them to do better work with the data. 2 days is a long time to sit through if you're not actually enjoying the experience. In terms of the content, there are 3 kind of axes: real database examples, access to new tools, and very detailed introduction. So not making any assumptions about how to install software and whatnot, but actually starting with nothing on the computers of the participants and getting them up to speed. In terms of the delivery, they need to be easy to follow and interactive. There are many, many hands-on exercises that are straightforward for beginners, and there needs to be an ability to ask questions without slowing the pace. So if it looks like there's too much content in your workshop and that you're rushing through, people are not going to feel welcome to ask the questions. So it's important to provide an environment, and the trained instructors are trained, one of the things they're trained in is to provide this inviting environment for asking questions. They need to be patient instructors, and they need to be qualified as well, of course. One of the things, so here's a picture from one of the workshops, and I think from this picture you can't really see, but if it was taken from the other angle, in addition to having these instructors and the helpers in the rooms, the Carpentries use the post-it notes approach, which I really, really like. So, if you're the instructor, you're only seeing the backs of people's laptops. So they usually bring in colored post-it notes, and each color means something. So, for example, green means I'm done with my exercise. So you can easily scan the room and see how many people are done. Because if you ask the question, are we done? Either you get no answers or not necessarily honest answers. Also, a red means I have a question. So this means that people don't have to necessarily raise their hands, which can be intimidating for some people to do so. They may not feel like doing so, but the helpers are always scanning these, and also it's a nice way for the instructor who is standing up here, who is not wandering around, to see what kind of where the audience is at. As I said, the curriculum is available on GitHub, so if you were to look up software or data carpentry on GitHub, you'll be able to get to the contents of the curriculum. Everything is developed in plain text, so it's either Markdown or whatnot, so you should be able to easily adapt them for your own use if you would like to do so, or if you would like to just learn from them. Data carpentry itself is focused on data. It teaches how to manage and analyze data in an effective and reproducible way. The initial focus is on workshops for novices. There are no prereqs, no prior knowledge of computational experience, and no assumption of computational experience. And it's domain specific by design. So there are lessons in ecology, genomics, geospatial data, and APIs. And depending on what the lessons are, we're using different technologies. The curriculum focuses on project and data organization, data cleaning and quality control, and data analysis and visualization in R or Python. So there are 2 days workshops in R and 2-day workshops in Python that assume no prior background in either. And usually in the postings of the workshops, you'll see which language is going to be used. So it's not a surprise when you get there. They are domain dependent, so there are things like introduction to cloud computing, which might be useful for some domains, but not at all relevant for others, command line, and also text mining. Software carpentry, on the other hand, is focused on better scientific programming practices for writing software or analysis scripts. And there are software carpentry workshops for novice levels and also for more advanced levels. And that itself is domain agnostic. So the curriculum focuses on command line, software development best practices in R, Python, or MATLAB, which tends to be 3 major languages that are used by these domain scientists. And it also teaches GitHub for version control. The instructors are volunteers themselves, but the Foundation, Software Carpentry Foundation, they run instructor training program that teach these volunteers teaching pedagogy, as well as specific strategies for teaching computational skills in a workshop format. In general, training is a missing piece between the data collection and the data-driven discovery. So researchers need to be trained in how to effectively manage and use these data. And they don't know how to address the questions they want to ask, or aren't even aware of the types of questions they can ask with the data. We're no longer saying researchers should know blah, blah, blah. It's the researchers themselves that want this training, and they feel limited by their own current data analysis skills. So you likely have, it's possible that these people have been meaning to kind of extend their work from the lab bench to the computational area. They just have not been equipped to do so yet. So I'm going to show some results of the pre and post workshop surveys over the 1.5 years. And the data were analyzed in early 2017. So one of the questions was, I can immediately apply what I learned at this workshop. And we can see that majority of the people either agree or strongly agree. So they feel like they can start using the skills they learned in the workshop right away, which is great. They also feel that attending the workshop is worth their time, and they feel that they would recommend these workshops to their friends. Here's a word cloud that shows the words most commonly used in the free text feedback. And I'm not seeing something like frustrating in a huge font, so that's great. And also, the participants feel like they're more confident in the use of the tools covered in a data workshop after attending. And that really speaks to that next step of if they need to learn something within their own domain, a specific analysis or technique, they're going to feel more empowered to do so. So in general, data and software carpentries are trying to make an impact on how scientists analyze their data by building communities rather than individual learning behind the computer. How could you get involved? You could request a workshop from the data or software carpentry websites. You can be a helper at a workshop. You can become a partner or affiliate and train local instructors, or you can contribute to lesson development. And there are, in terms of how you would go about doing these, if you go to the software and data carpentry websites, there are links to all of these as well. Here are the names of people who are guiding the carpentries. They have 2 separate steering committees, even though they work closely together. And support for data carpentry and software carpentry comes from a variety of organizations and foundations. Thank you very much.
Great talk. I had a question for you. The hypothesis testing, is that involved in the workshops or just the data mining?
Oh, so like the statistical
Yes.
approaches, do they teach them? So I believe the answer is no to that question. In the data carpentry, it's more about kind of pre-processing the data.
Okay.
However, one thing I would say is that more likely than not, if you're going to a workshop that's kind of within your own domain, the instructors themselves will be able to point you to resources, but particular analysis techniques are not covered in the workshops.
Thank you.
And one other thing I would note is that both the carpentries are always looking for more contribution from others, developing lessons. I think there is a vision of what should and should not be included, but it's always an open conversation as well.
Thank you very much. Let's take